There are many surprising Muslim inventions that have changed the world we live in today. Some of these amazing things are astronomy and creating the first toothbrush. In this video, we are going to look at 9 things you didn't know Muslims invented. Number 1. Coffee. This was found more than 1200 years ago because of a herd of curious goats and their observant master. Their master was an Arab named Khalid. The way he figured this out was he noticed his goats became more lively and excited after they ate a particular berry. Instead of just eating the berries though, they were taken and boiled to create al-kawa, which means coffee. Number 2. Clocks. A man named Al-Jazari was a very skilled engineer who created the concept of automatic machines. By 1206, Al-Jazari made multiple clocks in different shapes and sizes. Same way we need time to structure our day, Muslims needed the same thing even 700 years ago. They knew it was crucial to know the time. The things they mostly used it for was knowing when to pray at the right time each day and announce the call to prayer in mosques. Number 3. Cleanliness. People weren't dirty back in the day, but Muslims took cleanliness to a whole nother level. Muslims' faith is based on purity and cleanliness, whether it's in the physical or spiritual form. The products they use that are found in bathroom cabinets and hygiene practices could compete with those we have today. Muslims wanted to be really clean and not just splash themselves with water, so they made soap by mixing oil with salt like substance called alkali. This was then boiled to get the right mix and left to harden. Also, a man named Al-Kindi wrote a book on perfumes called Book of the Chemistry of Perfume and Distillations. This book contained more than 100 recipes for fragrant oils, salves, and aromatic waters. The very old tradition of perfume making was all made possible because of Muslim chemists and their method of distillation. They distilled plants and flowers and made perfumes and substances for therapeutic pharmacies. Number 4. Cameras. This man revolutionized optics by taking the subject from one being discussed philosophically to an actual science revolved around experiments. He dismissed the Greek idea that an invisible light emitting from the eye caused sight. He instead rightly stated that vision was caused by a light reflecting off an object and entering the eye. He provided the evidence for his theory by using a dark room with a pinhole on one side and a white sheet on the other. Light came through the hole and projected an inverted image of objects outside the room on the sheet opposite. He called this the camera, which sounds extremely similar to camera. It became the world's first camera obscura. Number 5. Universities. In the Quran, they urge Muslims to seek knowledge and to observe and reflect. So a woman named Fatima Al-Fari was an Arab Muslim who is credited for founding the oldest existing and first degree awarding educational institution in the world, the University of Al-Qarawiyyin in Fes, Morocco. When her father died, he left his money to her and her sister, so she used her inheritance to establish the university. At first it started as a mosque with 22,000 worshippers, but later grew into a place of education. Number 6. Surgical instruments. A surgeon known as Abu Qasis of the West wrote Al-Tadrif, which is his medical encyclopedia. It included a treatise called On Surgery. This held an unbelievable collection of over 200 surgical tools. Using instruments for surgery was a revolutionary idea because it allowed science to change from being speculative to something experimental. This was the first treatise in the history of medicine to show the use of surgical instruments. Because their design was so accurate, it only had a few changes in a millennium. These very same designs laid the foundations for surgery in Europe. Number 7. Flying machine. Abbas M. Furness was the first person to do everything he can to construct a flying machine and actually fly. In the 9th century, he designed a winged apparatus which roughly looked like a bird costume. In his most famous trial near Cordoba in Spain, Furness flew upward for a few seconds before dropping to the ground and partially breaking his back. Number 8. Maps. Maps have helped people find their way for approximately 3,500 years. The introduction of paper was a huge step forward in the art of map making. Back in the day, maps were made from travelers and pilgrim accounts. The 7th century Muslims loved traveling so they can leave their homes for trade, for religious reasons, and to explore the world they lived in. They walked routes, sometimes just so they can gather information about new places, and when they returned, they gave accounts of the people and sites they had encountered. This at first was by word of mouth, but with the introduction of paper in Baghdad in the 8th century, the first maps and travel guides were able to be produced. And number 9, algebra. The word algebra comes from the title of a Persian mathematician's famous 9th century treatise called the Book of Reasoning and Balancing. In this book, Al-Khwarizmi introduces the beginnings of algebra. This was very significant because it was a revolutionary move away from the Greek concept of mathematics, which was mostly based on geometry. Al-Khwarizmi was also the first to introduce the concept of raising a number to a power.
Thank you for watching. If you like this video and want to see more videos like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and leave a like.